Okay, so I did a stream. I posted a video on street epistemology, and then we did a stream on epistemology. And now there was a conversation on Twitter about said street epistemology. Now, what was interesting is when we were doing the stream, a couple of street epistemologists, I believe Pine Creek Doug was in the live chat for a little while, but a couple of the other street epistemologists were there too. And somebody asked a question that totally underscored the real problem with street epistemology. And I'm not sure if it was Doug. One of the street epistemologists there did. Now, at the higher level, at the Anthony Magnabosco level, that it might not be a problem. Again, I tacitly endorse it at his level. It may, and I don't know this for a fact, but it may be what he is doing is just exploring the mechanics of belief itself to get at the reasons why people believe what they believe, which there is value to doing that. But at the lower levels, okay, here was the question that was asked of me, and I don't know who asked it. What would it take to convince you that you're wrong? That's a totally false way to start off. That's a totally false predicate to start a conversation with somebody making a claim. What would it take to convince you that you're wrong? Let's leave aside the fact that, first of all, it's presupposing that you're right, but let's leave that aside. It is why that is deeply flawed. It's deeply flawed. And like I said, it's not legitimate inquiry. Because you are putting yourself into relationship. I am making the claim, okay? God exists, and you are putting yourself into relationship with me, the claimant, rather than examining the claim itself and either validating or invalidating the claim itself. Now, I know if you're an atheist, you already think you don't need to do that, but that's not legitimate inquiry. That's not a scientific approach to truth-finding. I don't need to examine the claim itself. I already did when I was a Christian 15 years ago. Now I'm an atheist. I don't believe it. Doesn't work like that. If I am coming to you and I'm making a claim, you have an epistemic responsibility, if you want to have integrity and if you want to do legitimate inquiry, to examine the claim itself and either validate or invalidate the claim, not the believer. What people believe or do not believe is ultimately borderline irrelevant to what is true. If somebody comes up to you and doesn't believe in gravity, doesn't make one iota of difference if they believe in gravity or not. Gravity exists, irrespective of their beliefs. Now, when someone is coming making a God claim, most street epistemologists put themselves, like whoever was in that live chat, into relationship with the claimant, to try to walk them away from the claim, rather than examining the claim itself. Ultimately, the only thing that's important is what's true, not what everybody believes. It's who's right, what's true. So, to underscore what I mean, let's take it out of the realm of the controversial and the religious. Let's put it into something so you can easily see what I mean. Let's say Loch Ness Monster. Now, I don't necessarily know. I'm agnostic on the Loch Ness Monster. There's possible there could be a Loch Ness Monster. I myself have not been to Loch Ness and never seen it. So I don't know. There are reports. Some people have reports that they've seen the Loch Ness Monster and some haven't. You know, it's one of these things. It's similar to God belief in that it's somewhat plausible and it's somewhat implausible depending on depending on how you frame it to yourself, really. You can frame it to yourself in a way that it seems really plausible, and you can also frame it to yourself in a way that seems wildly implausible. It's very similar to religious beliefs. It's neither plausible nor implausible. But how you frame it to yourself, you can gin it up one way or the other. But let's say I went to Loch Ness and I saw the Loch Ness Monster and I came up to you and I said, guess what? I know for a fact the Loch Ness Monster is real. Now you're a street epistemologist. What would it take to convince you that you're wrong? See how invalid that is? What would it take to convince you that you're wrong? You're presupposing I'm wrong, first of all. And you're totally putting yourself in relationship to me in a way to do what almost all atheists always try to do: debunk, dismiss, discredit. Debunk, dismiss, discredit. That's not the proper epistemic relationship to the proposition God exists. You are supposed to be scientifically minded, which means examining the truth content underneath, not debunk, dismiss, discredit. And in street epistemology, it's deeply flawed. It's like if you take, I'm going to look into this some more. I mean, one of the things, there's a Mike Winger video too about it. And I think I haven't watched that. I'm going to watch that, and I'll do some more on the topic. If Christians, we don't have to get all triggered out by this. It's not a threat. We don't have to be defensive. It's not some weird cult, and we have to be. Mike Winger said it was kind of like I think that's how he titled the video. It's not some really threatening thing to us. It's a lot more pleasant. Like I said in the other video, if atheists going to atheists, okay, and there are going to be atheists out there and they're going to try to convince me that God does not exist, it's a far more palatable way to me if they go about it the way that Anthony Magnabosco goes about it. Hey, can I ask you some questions? Are you 70% convinced? If they do that, then the Aaron Ra version. We don't need to be threatened by it. We don't need to be like, freaked out that's if you are a Christian and you are threatened by anything out there in the atheist or skeptic world, anything at all, except threats, obviously. If somebody's threatening you, that's a threat. But anything, any line of reasoning, any argumentation, it's very, very simple. You need to get stronger in your faith, period, full stop. Today and tomorrow and the next day. How do you do that, Craig? Simple. Start praying, start seeking the Lord more. Start praying, start seeking the Lord more. Because if you are threatened by this new form of jujitsu or this new form of whatever, that means you're not really all that strong or confident in your faith. And you're vulnerable to street epistemologists, to tell you the truth. One of the things that I am trying to do, and I've tried to stress this in my videos, God is 150% real to me. Real to me. I don't need to justify my belief to myself. It's 100% real. And I compared it to a migraine headache. If you have a migraine headache, you don't go around looking for evidence of your migraine headache. Why? You experience it directly and it's 100% real. Thanks. You have no question about it whatsoever. That's how real my God belief is to me. Now, what I am trying to do is finding a way of fully articulating and fully explaining that so that I can make that real to other people and make that logically consistent so other people can go, a migraine headache, the problem with the migraine headache is totally internal and subjective. So you have to try to make it real to someone else if you are trying to evidence it to another person. Now that's what I am trying to do with my videos. Take the thing that's 150% real to me and explain it in a way and find the actual epistemic validation underneath it all, which I'm relatively certain that it is. See, epistemology is in its infancy too. It is not really right now it's not really a complete as it's framed. There's a lot of things that they are leaving out. There's sociology of epistemology. There's a lot of things going on in how people come to their beliefs that we are barely perceiving correctly. But that's another video for another time. In epistemology, there's such a thing as the sensus divinatus. And there's such a thing that Plantinga has tried to argue that a Christian belief can be properly basic. Now, that's perfectly okay for me, but I can understand why somebody would argue against that as an actual grounding in general. Because if I have the migraine headache, I can't say migraine headaches are experienced to all and, it's more complex than just we can say it's properly basic and leave it at that. So there's some more explanations that need to be delved into. Plantinga's just the first step in the right direction, but it doesn't quite get us to where we need to go. See, I'm perfectly confident that there is a way to explain in a way that is rationally coherent to someone who is not me. This is how my God belief operates. This is how it works. This is how I experience it directly. And the person listening can completely understand and go, aha, I get that. Yes, that is correct. I'm relatively certain there will be a path forward to give a validation, some form of an epistemic validation for the supernatural experience. I don't think it's going to be all that complicated because it isn't just me I know who has it. Hundreds of people I know. Hundreds of people I know to varying degrees of intensity. So I'll just leave it like that for now. Street epistemology is flawed. That's the bottom line. It's flawed. It puts itself into relationship with the actual believer. And the real thing that you are supposed to be in relationship is the belief. That's what you are looking for. Whether the claim itself is true, whether you can validate or invalidate the claim itself. Not whether you can get the claimant to not believe it. I mean, you'll have a victory, you'll walk some people off of their faith, but again, it's a Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhic victory meaning meaningless. Big deal. You got some wussy Christian who wasn't really all that, Mr. Sunday Christian comes along, or even Mr. thinks he's Mr. Evangelist comes along. You start asking questions and they challenge him and, oh God, this guy becomes an atheist. It really doesn't make any it's irrelevant. It's a Pyrrhic victory. The fact that you actually think you are gaining something from that is more illuminating than what you potentially are gaining. So, Christians, take note. This really isn't something we need to stress out about one way or the other. If you think we do, get stronger in your faith. Walk closer to the Lord. Get your faith white hot so that God is more real to you. Because then you won't care. You'll be like me. You're just doing these. I'm doing this stuff because it's interesting and then there's things to be just explored. Not because I feel like I got to really address this or, which even Mike Winger has a little bit of it in his video. A little bit of defensiveness. Like, I better address this or it's really threatening. I've heard a lot of Christians say, well, those beliefs are dangerous. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. If you think that things that are more or less benign and if you're getting too much threat from them, you need to strengthen your Christian walk, period, full stop. That's it. That's all you need to do. Grow in the Lord, pray more, be more committed Christian, start having more deeper spiritual experiences so that you start to actually know God is real instead of just think God is real. There's a big difference between Christians who actually really deeply experience God. I know a couple now in the chats. I can tell by how they talk. But the other thing, last thing I'll say, and then I'm rambling a little, it doesn't matter. Last thing I will say, and then I'll let it go. The other reason why street epistemology is flawed is that somebody can actually have really good reasons for what they believe and not be able to articulate it and not know what those reasons actually are because they don't have any skills of self-examination. That's where most people are at, to be perfectly honest with you. What people actually believe or do not believe is totally irrelevant. I would never even bother to waste my time digging into somebody's belief and walk them away from it. If the 50 people I run into, I wouldn't even think of wasting my time trying to convince them that what I believe is true. What I'm trying to get at is the structure underneath it all. Why is there an army of atheists? Not why this one particular guy's an atheist. Why is there a whole bunch of them out there and why are they making YouTube videos? Obviously because the power of God wasn't really available to them in the churches they attended. And it wasn't available to them as advertised. No miracles, signs, and wonders, if you ask me. Because if there were, they wouldn't be there. They wouldn't be atheists. They wouldn't. But anyways, that's another video for another day. That's another subject for another time, kid. So that is all for now. Street epistemology, whatever. Let's just roll with it. That is all. Mass is ended. Go in peace. Amen.